Bitcoin's gonna hit 180,000 this time. We got this made in the shade, man. I'm here in Dubai again. Please, this is gonna be an amazing run. This will be the biggest run we've ever had. I just can't even wait. Hey, little man, what are you doing?
I'm cleaning, sir.
What color is your Bugatti?
But I only trade memes, sir.
Hey, bro, are you trading memes too?
Of course, bro.
Just make me a whiskey sour.
But why are you so upset, sir?
Nothing. It's just a little correction.
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
I started losing everything, man. You know, like the Bitcoin happening, everything's supposed to go up, and instead it's going down, down, down. I don't understand what the problem is. You have Gary Gensler, he's causing a disaster. You have the wars over. I mean, I just don't understand. Is it going to come back up?
Who knew in this bull market only meme coins going up?
These freaking meme coins.
What are you doing, bro? Are you still trading memes?
Of course, bro. What do you expect me to do?
What about the meme from DOGE? It's going up?
Bro, are you joking? Come to see what is happening.
Are you crazy? You're losing money.
No, that's the wrong tab. Okay, look at that.
This is crazy.
I made $500,000, man, from nothing.
Amazing what you made. But bro, this is not enough for your dream car.
Bro, are you joking? I was just cleaning tires a while ago. I just quit, man.
Yeah, now we can go back to it.
Yeah, you think so?
Yes, I can.
Bro, if I'm gonna make this money, I promise you, I'm gonna get this car.
Right.
Oh man, this U.S. election is great, man. Everything's going up. We're so back, man. We are back. Great.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Hey, you still
Oh.
trading meme coins?
Yeah, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Look.
Bro, look at this.
Whoa! Congratulations, man.
Come on, I'm gonna show you my car, bro.
Good morning, everybody. Hello. Welcome back. You're watching on the Smart Money Culture TV network, as well as streaming around the world on LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram and all the rest of them. Fly Mackey, the man with the plan, meeting some big people this week, putting some things together to get us on more channels in more places. We're super excited about it. Comment coming in here. Hello there. How are you? You should come see us in Hong Kong. Hong Kong's going to be pretty awesome. I am pretty excited about it. I'll tell you this. I've been all over the world, and Hong Kong is one of those places I haven't been yet. And I'm a real sucker for a place I haven't been. So Consensus Hong Kong. This is lining up. Oh, I got a little bit of an alfalfa here, don't I? Oh, look at that. Anyway, so Consensus Hong Kong is going to be like the most important event, I think, of these few months here. Okay, February 18 through 20. Of course, that is right near my sister's birthday, so that's cool too. But Bitcoin is more than likely going to be blown by 100,000. We're going to have a lot of different things going on, and it's going to be an important event. Consensus, CoinDesk always does an amazing event. And hold on. What? All right, so anyway. Yeah, so it's going to be an important event, and you should come. You should come. They're going to have all the big names there. Hong Kong, of course, if you haven't been to Hong Kong, I mean, this is your chance, guys. This is your chance to come to Hong Kong. It's going to be really, really fun. We'll more than likely, I'm already setting up. I'm talking to my brother, David Porter, Sir David Porter, as well as Randy Schwartz, the big guys. Consensus. Let's just look at this real quick. Hong Kong. I'll pull this up so we can look at it real quick for everybody here, because this is going to be really a lot of fun. You guys should come. If you're in Asia, it's great. The other thing about it is Asia, guys, is like, I mean, it is really happening. It is really happening. Do not sell my personal information. How hard is that? The most influential, am I pulled up here? Let me add this to my screen. The most influential event in Web3 and digital assets. Dialogue, discovery, deal making. Register now. Are you ready to connect with the brightest minds in crypto and Web3? What is consensus? I mean, this is going to be the event. Now, if you remember, we did consensus in Austin, and it was absolutely massive. Here, let's watch this.
Consensus 2024, let's go!
Consensus is where it's at. Let's get it.
That's what's happening here in Austin for Consensus 2024, and can't wait to see what's going to come next year.
There you have it, guys. Austin is where it's at.
Consensus 2024, let's go!
There we go. Of course, that was consensus Austin. That's going to be awesome. But Hong Kong, guys, this is going to be a great event. Make sure to use code Bruce15 for a 15% discount. I'm going to post this right under if you're following my X. What? If you're following my X. Okay. All right. I'm going to put the link below it. Sometimes with these things, you have to kind of click into the direct link in order to make it work correctly. So I have a list of links here. Consensus Hong Kong. Follow this link. I'm adding it here. Put a nice photo on it here. Maybe that'll work. Sometimes the photo gets me in trouble. Post. Worked. Okay, great. So really a lot going on. We have, DOGE, DOGE is planning, Elon and this Department of Government Efficiency planning to reduce spending by at least 2/3. So that would put us from a $6.5 trillion budget to like a $2 trillion budget, right? A little over $2 trillion budget. This would be absolutely amazing. I don't even know what to do with myself thinking about this. I'm like salivating. I just don't know. I mean, this would be the biggest thing, right? So, of course, now these appointments, Trump has been appointing all kinds of people. Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz raised some eyebrows. He almost immediately, or at the same time, stepped down, resigned from his position as congressman. Now, that did definitely raise some eyebrows. Of course, everybody's trying to FUD and say, oh, well, he had some ethics problems and this and that and the other. I don't really think that had anything to do with it. But he was able to, I guess if he had resigned on that certain day, they were able to put a new person in before they had, before the cutoff, and they would have the new person in there before the new Congress, so they wouldn't have an empty seat. So that was how that went. Matt Gaetz, I think the only way any of these people get confirmed is if they do recess appointments. And I think that's the big reason why they pushed Thune through as the Senate Majority Leader, because he's not going to do it. We had a lot of fight ahead of us. As well, Steve Bannon is going back to jail. The New York New York judge decided that he is not going to hold off on prosecuting this old case, saying that he funneled money away from border wall stuff. Commingling is like that's their favorite thing to go after, I feel like. Commingling. That's why they went after Trump too, I think. So the deal with Trump, and what a lot of people don't know why kind of he got in trouble. He paid off the porn star old horse face there, whatever his name is, right? But apparently he did it with campaign funds, and that was the whole illegal part about it. He commingled funds. That's the story anyway. I don't know. But I mean, are US dollars non-fungible? I mean, is the US dollar non-fungible? I don't know. I mean, I guess there's certain rules you can use money for it. I don't know. But anyway, that seems to be their favorite thing to do. So Steve Bannon, apparently that's what they're saying, is he used some of these funds that he got for the border wall for something else. And so they're going to send him back to prison. He said on his show, I guess yesterday, that he's going back to jail. Pretty interesting. We have a lot of fighting going on, guys. I'll tell you what, there's a lot more fight ahead of us. Okay. There is a lot. It's a lot. The only way I think we're going to get these cabinet positions through is through reassess appointments. So that's going to have to happen. The only way you're going to get Matt Gaetz through is on a recess, and in the recess appointments, then nobody gets to vote on them. They just do it, right? Tulsi Gabbard, the same thing. They did basically what they did with Tulsi Gabbard is what they did with everybody who even publicly supported January 6th. So if you publicly supported January 6th, they said it was an insurrection, even though nobody had any guns or anything like that. It's really mostly peaceful protest. And, that's what they said, mostly peaceful protests about all these Black Lives Matter protests, and they were burning the place down. There were no burning down or nothing, right? I mean, and even the people that walked in, I mean, those poor people that walked inside, I feel really bad for them because they just walked around, I mean, they stayed within the, they had places roped off and they stayed within the roped off places, you know what I mean? Pretty much, right? So anyway, if you publicly supported January 6th, you can't get a security clearance. So you can't even work for the government, right? And so what they did with Tulsi Gabbard was they did kind of the same thing, was they put her on some list. And she's like, a Russian agent or something like this. And so they're like, this woman cannot be the head of the DNI. I mean, I hope Trump gets it, because here's the deal with the security clearances. Trump, if you're listening, or I hope somebody tells you, everybody gets a security clearance that you say gets a security clearance. That's the way it works. You can fluff it off to these FBI guys who don't support you, or these other deep staters, and they'll say, no, you can't do it. But whoever you decide gets a security clearance gets a security clearance. And that's the way it works. Okay. And whoever they decide gets a security clearance, gets one. Okay. But whoever you decide, you're the head guy, you say they get a security clearance, guess what? They get a security clearance. That's the way it works. So I hope somebody tells him that, or he gets the message, or he already knows, because of course, last time around, this person couldn't get a job, and then he couldn't get a disappointment too, because that person couldn't get a security clearance. I mean, come on, give me a break, guys. Give me a break. Just think about Sleepy Joe's son and all that stuff he had. I mean, that should have, and him, So anyway, that's the way it works. All right. So I hope everybody hears me. And on these cabinet appointments, we should have, you just got to push them through. Otherwise, we're not going to get anything done, right? Elon, of course, is not going to have any problems with security clearance. He already has top secret security clearance. If you're a congressman or serving, that's a different kind of status. You don't have to go through the same security clearance type stuff. So Matt Gaetz and this stuff doesn't have to worry. I guess Tulsi Gabbard, she's former though. Anyway, it's going to be pretty interesting. The markets have been a lot of fun. I've been scalp trading back and forth, and it's not for the faint of heart, but I've been doing pretty good at it. So that's been kind of fun. The markets right now are defying gravity. I have Matt Dixon here. I'm going to bring him on in a second. And I mean, it remains to be seen how long they're going to defy gravity. What is going to be the thing that really gives us a move? markets fill in the gaps normally. So when you have a big move up or a big move down, it usually fills in. And so we're sitting up here. I'm looking at we're at 89,323. I'll tell you what, anybody that told you when we were buying Bitcoin under $100 that this thing was going to $89,000, man, they were lying. They're lying. They're lying. We didn't know. Otherwise, we would have never sold any of them. We would have gone and, done whatever. Washed toilets. Doing anything except sell Bitcoins. It is pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy to watch. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of money to be made, guys. There's a lot of money to be made. We're working on we're looking on quite a few things in order to make it more easy for you guys to work with us and to make money. Some of those deals came out of my time in Dubai, so that's going to be very good. Let's talk here. We got the great Matt Dixon. Sir Matt, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Bruce. How are you? I'm good.
I'm doing great, man. It's so easy coming back here, getting on schedule like we talked about. Going that way is so hard. Coming back here, really no problem.
Yeah, absolutely right what you said about Bitcoin. I actually bought some Bitcoin at 6,000, sold it at 20. I was so happy.
Yeah, right?
And now look at it, almost 100.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. I'm hopefully going to have a stab at trying to identify where we're in this particular cycle, where exactly we are, whether we've got more to go, etc. So I'm just going to share my screen straight away. Great. Hopefully you can see that screen. I'm on Solana at the moment.
Oh yeah, the crowd favorite.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Solana because it's one of my favorites. I follow it quite closely. There's a few things we can see from here that I tend to use in trading. So within this particular cycle, I think we're in from this low point here. When I say low, it's not that low. It's $154 Solana, but just the move up from there, I think, is a particular cycle in itself. So I think we've had a wave 1 up, 2 down, 3 up. I think we're working on wave 4, and I think there's a 5th wave to come, which will take us higher yet again on Solana. Now, the reason I think we're on a wave 4, well, I'll go into that in a minute, but let's just see first of all where we start from here. Wave 1, what I did, I measured the magnitude of wave 1 as 100%, and I just transposed that to start of wave 2. That then gives me a stab at trying to identify wave 3. Now, wave 3 is nearly always the extended wave. It's the most powerful extended wave in Elliott wave terms. It's when the crowd really get involved. It's when the prices tend to go quite parabolic and really rocket higher. And that's what we saw really from $150 to $225. So that's 50% move up I mean, what's the time scale here? Just get that thing out of the way. Didn't want that at all. Dear, let me get back to where I was here. So just looking at the time frame there. So that was 4th November. So what we're talking about here, 10 days, something like that. So from 10 days is it? We've gone up 50% in 10 days. So that is parabolic on a major token, really high up on the capitalization table of cryptos. It's the real retail chain of choice, etc. It's one of the favorites, and 50% in 10 days is phenomenal. So that's really a typical parabolic phase, wave 3. But what's interesting is wave 3 would normally go to a minimum 1.618. Now, you might be excused for thinking that wave 3 was here because it's 1.618, or here at 2.618. But it continued to 4.236. Now that is, quite an extended wave for wave 3, but it's very typical of, particularly in crypto, they're quite violent and, aggressive. The last time I really saw this when I used to trade FX was in the 2008 financial crisis, and I was trading the Australian dollar against the yen. And it extended on the way down to 4.236 precisely before the price reversed again. So that was, in the crash, we were measuring the other way from top to bottom. We got a 4.236 extension of wave 1 on the way down. So that's a massive extension, and that's exactly what we've seen here on Solana. And price turned almost, I mean, just a fraction away, but almost on the button at 4.236. So that was a really satisfying wave 3 there. And then I believe we're working on wave 4. Now, the reason I say wave 4, we can, I think, reasonably clearly see we're on a 5-wave move. This cycle is a 5-wave cycle. Now, a triangle, this is what I believe is a triangle. A triangle can only occur in either a wave 4 or a wave B position. So the fact that we've identified this extension here as wave 3, then it's likely to be wave 4. So triangles cannot occur in wave 2 positions. As I say, only a wave B position or a wave 4 position, or sometimes an X wave, which is part of a correction as well. So a triangle is made up of 5 sets of 3 waves. So we can see here the first set of 3 waves from the 3, we've got A, B, C, that's 3 waves down. That gives us the A wave. And then we've got A, B, C, that's 3 waves up, that gives us the B wave. Then we've got A, B, C, that's 3 waves down, gives us the C wave. Now I'm expecting A, B, C somehow to give us the D wave, then the E wave, and then following the E wave, you then get a thrust from the triangle, and it should be to the upside because this is basically a bullish consolidation triangle, which being a wave 4, you expect us to push up in wave 5 to the upside and take us to new highs above this $225 high. So I'm waiting for the triangle to finish. Now, it may not turn out to be a triangle. It's looking like it at the moment because we've got a perfect structure here with 3 down, 3 up, 3 down, looking like probably 3 up. And then we'll get hopefully another 3 down and then pushing to the upside. So it's looking really, really good at the moment. Triangles, for me, are one of the most predictive structures there are in Elliott Wave and in charting. And they're actually the structure that I've made most money on throughout my whole career of 40 years now, almost, in trading. Triangles are very, very predictive. As I say, they're a pre-terminal wave, and then the wave after it is the terminal wave. So what this is telling me is that I think we do have higher to go because it's a pre-terminal wave. The terminal wave, or what they call the thrust from the triangle, is also normally quite aggressive thrusting out of the triangle. If we've already had an extended wave, it's unlikely we'll get another extended wave, although it's possible, but it's unlikely. So normally, or very often, wave 5 is often equal to, can often equal wave 1, or it can equal a percentage of wave 1 through 3, sometimes 61.8% of it, but normally it's not as big as the wave 3. You don't normally get 2 large extended waves. So I would expect upside, but there'll be some limit to it. And what I'll do, if we do get the E wave and then thrust from there, the 5th wave should be in 5 clear waves to the upside. So we'll be able to count those waves as the price progresses to the upside, and we'll be able to get some kind of feel of where the 5th wave is going to end, somewhere there or thereabouts where it's going to end. And then we'd be looking for some major correction on not just Solana, but it should be across the board on everything. So if I'm thinking about where this might position us with Bitcoin, if we're looking at Solana going above the $225 here, and maybe to test the previous all-time high, whatever it was, 260 something, I think. I can easily check. But if we're going to test those levels on Solana, then I would expect, I mean, think about it in percentage terms. It's quite a big percentage. We're still talking 25% higher from here, roughly. So you'd expect Bitcoin to smash through. If that's the case, Bitcoin will smash through the 100,000, sail through it like a knife through butter, as Bruce always says. So potentially, yes, we might be in a bit of a corrective mode. We expect a bit of a pullback after the big price rises we've had recently. There's going to be a bit of a pullback. Maybe some people will start to think, oh, that's the top of the market, etc. But then we get that 5th wave, that final 5th wave. Now, a 5th wave, normally you will also get some substantial regular bearish divergence on a 5th wave. So we'll be watching out for that and see if that happens. But talking of divergences, we have had a few divergences here on Solana along the way that have been quite useful. So the first one was, we measured from, we can see the RSI, had a high RSI there and sloping down to a lower peak there. And corresponding, we had the high price in Solana there to a higher high there. So they actually you have to make sure those lines correspond perfectly. So higher highs on price, lower highs are RSI. That told us we're going to get a pullback in price. Precisely what we saw wasn't a massive pullback, but what was interesting was we then got some hidden bullish divergence. So here we got regular bearish telling us of this little downturn, but very often you then get an opposite divergence. So here we had hidden bullish, which told us where to close our trade if we were short on that trade. And you close your trade at 196 on this, because we then got this hidden bullish, which is basically higher lows on the price and lower lows on the corresponding RSI. That's telling you of a continuation to the upside, and that's precisely what we saw. Not a massive continuation, but enough to enable you to get a stop loss into a profit position, a guaranteed profit position, and basically wait for more upside. Now, the next divergence, as I see it, was right up to the top of wave 3, and we basically got some regular bearish divergence here where we got higher highs in price and corresponding lower highs in RSI. So you can see there that gave us a signal. The price was likely to turn down. And as I said, it corresponded also very nicely with a 4.236 extension. So some really strong signs there that 225 was the top, the local top in Bitcoin, sorry, not Bitcoin, in Solana, and we're expecting some downside to come. Now, the fact it came in 3 waves already told me that we're likely to see more upside at some point in Solana, because 3 waves is corrective. So at some point, we'll see more upside. But then following that, we got 3 waves to the upside, then a further 3 waves to the downside, telling me this correction is a sideways consolidation. Price is just treading water ahead of the next big move, almost definitely to the upside. We can never be absolutely certain, but it's almost definitely to the upside. But expect probably a bit more consolidation, maybe over this weekend. Prices are moving quite quickly, but it was needed. These sideways consolidations just allow really the market to sort of absorb what's happened with the price, take a bit of a breather, allow some people to take profits. But then remember, a 5th wave is normally the wave where retail are still piling in, but the institutions have actually, the big whales, maybe not institutions, but the big whales in crypto may have been taking profits, maybe early in wave 5, maybe here at the top of wave 3, but they've usually taken profits. And that's what this consolidation is all about, taking profits, but there's still some buy pressure from retail. There's a lot of enthusiasm. We've seen fear and greed greed very, very high. So there's a lot of enthusiasm in the retail market. That will push Solana to new highs above this high. But because there will be divergence, I'm almost certain of that, and we'll report on that on shows maybe next week. We'll look to see if divergence develops here. If it does, we're likely to see higher highs in price and lower highs in corresponding RSI. So let's just see if that happens. And if it does, we'll certainly highlight it, and it'll give us some indication of where we're going on price. So that just gives me an overall picture of the market, kind of a roadmap of where I think the market's going. Now, it's Solana, it's not the biggest token, but there's good correlation here across the main assets. Bitcoin has been very much an asset on its own, but there's still a good deal of correlation. So here's Bitcoin. Again, we've seen some kind of, it's a different pattern here, but again, we see some kind of corrective pattern to the downside. So I do think, in fact, I do think that we're still going to see some more upside. We're going to see new all-time high again after the correction's complete. Maybe it'll correct a little bit more sideways before we then get a push to a new all-time high yet again for Bitcoin. And probably the first effort will be a stab at that 100,000 barrier. But I think that we're probably, by the look of it, most probably going to sail through that 100 in the relatively near future. We'll probably get that traditional Christmas rally, I've no doubt. Even if we get a nasty pullback in the meantime, I suspect we will get the Christmas rally, and that should be reflected with a real Christmas gift of Bitcoin over 100,000, which would be amazing for those people, especially who got in when it costs next to nothing. I know a lot of people who regret having sold it, but some people had to sell. Some people have actually got some good things out of it. Some people have bought houses or cars or
exactly right. I mean, we're all kind of in that position with a lot of them. We're like, well, all right, well, at least at least I did that with them, and I'm living nicer every day. I get to enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been amazing. And there's one, I know there's a massive following here. I mean, you can probably guess when I talk massive following, which one I'm going to talk about now, XRP. So XRP has really been, I mean, look at it, even today it's up 6%. A lot of the rest of the market is still up, but XRP has really stood out. And it's one of those tokens which it's really, really difficult to call. And we so often say you daren't bet against XRP. You just daren't, because I mean we're on 1 hour. Let me just go to a longer time frame so we can just see more about where it is, where it's been going. I mean, we did have that consolidation. I did expect us. We had an ABC, by the way, here, and we've had a massive push to the upside. I still think longer term it's actually in a consolidation. But I've been asked by a few XRP followers and fans about what the potential upside is. So I put some potential targets in. So I might go on to daily just to show this. There's always chance of a correction. XRP is one of those crazy tokens. I was also asked, why don't I use, when I'm looking at divergence, and I've got divergence here, for example, on the daily, and we can see higher highs on price, fractionally lower highs on RSI. That's telling us of regular bearish divergence, so potential downside. I was asked, why don't I use the weekly for measuring divergence? Well, daily, we can even see on the daily, there's massive movements on a single candle on a daily basis. XRP is a volatile asset. If I put it on a weekly chart here, we can see that even just one candle alone, for example, the candle over here, which took us to 90, even this one here, I mean, that was even bigger, but even this candle here, which doesn't look big on the scale of things, was actually 100% move up in price. 100%. So if you're moving 100% on one single candle, for me, that's not tradable. It doesn't give me much information to trade a moving target. There's too much movement there. So I need to focus on shorter time frames. So that's why I don't tend to use weekly. But whilst we're on the weekly here, it gives me time to an opportunity to look at potential targets to the upside. I still believe that we're probably going to break down with XRP substantially at some point, because this sideways movement to me still looks quite corrective. I suspect we may well and probably will get a push. I mean, certainly if Bitcoin goes to new all-time highs again above the 100K, I'm sure we're going to push up substantially with XRP. So when we got the SEC news out, XRP pushed to 93 cents. That's here. So the next reasonable overhead resistance would be that 93 cent level. So we're not a long way from it. We're at 81 cents, I think, right now, somewhere around 82 cents even right now. So there's a real chance we're going to at least test that level previously of 93 cents. The next one above that would be if you measure that move up from here, from this point here on this particular cycle to 93 cents, transpose to the bottom of the next wave, 100% takes you to 102 on XRP, so $1.02. So breaking the dollar. That will be the next overhead resistance. Now, if we break that, then next logical resistance might be 1.618 of this move here. It could still be corrective at that level. 1.618 would take us to 142. 142 on XRP. And if we break that, then the next logical target would be the previous high right over here of 196. So there's lots of potential upside targets for XRP. And who's to say it won't achieve it? Because XRP is that token which can really surprise you in a big way to the upside so often.
It's it's a central banker's coin. The central bankers have a lot of money, guys. They just print it up.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of money flowing in the system right now. Interestingly, just to flip back, I mean, away from the cryptos for a moment, we saw a pound. We were talking about how the pound was heading down. The UK, by the way, growth has almost stalled now. So Labour government just came in only a couple of months, not long ago, I don't know when it was now, but quite recently, and they're talking about how growth was going to take off under Labour administration, et cetera, et cetera. Now growth has virtually flatlined, and that's another reason for the pound selling off. So apart from pretty good numbers, robust situation really for the US at the moment. So things are looking reasonably good for a potential soft landing. But as I said, there's two sides to the equation with the US. They have got reasonably robust growth. They've got unemployment reasonably under control. But the problem is they've got inflation, which is above target still. So they're trying to balance an equation between managing unemployment or keeping employment at a good pace, and yet still managing inflation. So growth and inflation, balancing those two, which are both opposite forces, is extremely difficult. It's an equation which is really hard to balance. So for the Fed, if they were able to get what's known as a soft landing, it means keeping those two opposing forces in balance is extremely difficult. It really is like walking a tightrope. So I don't envy them. It's not easy. And especially with the backdrop of all the money that's being printed, there's a lot of volatility kind of being built into the market. So it's a difficult task they've got, but let's hope under Trump that they can put the right policies in place to maintain growth and manage inflation. But there's all sorts of outside forces as well, of course, those geopolitical and international macroeconomics as well. I mean, look at China. They're desperate to keep their economy afloat. They're printing money, they're pumping money, liquidity into the system, trying to keep all these property companies afloat. The property companies themselves are basically having to ask their shareholders, their bondholders, more like, to write off debt effectively. So it's a bad situation. The world is
building the military, building the military. I think people are starting to realize how much money that pumps in the economy as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've just seen, I think, well, again, oil, just looking at that kind of long term, we can see the extremes in oil price. This looks like it's corrected down. So at some point, I personally, from this, if you ask me, I think we're going to get geopolitical tensions at some point because oil price is going to take off, because this looks like some kind of A wave up, B wave down. At some point, we're going to get a C wave higher where oil will rocket. So the chart is telling me, and we so often say this, the charts tell you what's going to happen when you don't even know what it is that's going to happen, but the chart is telling you something's going to happen. So, I mean, we can even see more downside yet on oil before it happens. But at some point in the not too distant future, I think we're going to see oil price absolutely pumping, and that would equate most likely with geopolitical tension. So I've been hearing some more rumblings out of Ukraine, Russia. We heard those 10,000 troops from North Korea going and helping Russia out now.
Crazy. Like, let's start World War III before Trump gets in.
Yeah, I mean, that's destabilizing things. And then Israel also are trying to get their thing done, whatever it is, before Trump comes in. So there's a lot of things, potentially, a lot of uncertainty going to happen before Trump comes in. So, there's just a lot of uncertainty out there. We're seeing the dollar pull back just a little bit, but as I say, even here, very similar to oil, we can actually see that the dollar rallied higher, had a correction down. We may correct a bit further down now, but I think also the US dollar is going to take off. And that aligns with my expectation on the pound that we've discussed so many times, that the pound has already started its decline. I think it's going to be an almost terminal decline, I think, here. Whereas, as I said, longer term, the dollar should flip the pound and become stronger than the pound. But I think that decline has almost definitely begun already. And we're seeing the decline of the British economy. And if we do see any trouble in the world, money will flow into the US dollar. And then just to confirm that, we've said again with the dollar yen that there's basically maybe even more upside to come, which is actually in line with pumping risk assets like Bitcoin, etc. But following that, you'd expect dollar yen to dump. And although dollar strengthens in times of trouble, what strengthens even more than the dollar is the yen, because the yen is the world's funding currency. It's used to fund investment into risk assets. So whilst the US dollar is the world reserve currency that everything's priced in, when you're looking at borrowing money for nothing, you borrow it from Japan because interest rates are zero effectively. And that's where you borrow the money to invest in world assets. So when things go wrong, people have to pay back all those debts into yen. So yen rockets massively. And that's why that's the yen carry trade in reverse. And that's why you then see dollar yen collapsing. And that again is on the cards. The chart's telling us. So the chart's telling us what's going to happen in the not too distant future. I'm not talking about tomorrow or next week necessarily. I'm talking long term here. What's likely to happen in the markets? Now, I just looked at the time, Bruce. I can see I've much run over. So I'll call it a day for that. Thanks so much. I hope you all have a lovely weekend and look forward to catching up Monday.
Amazing, Matt. It is always a pleasure. And I will even I'll be reviewing the analysis here on my drive-in with my daughter taking her in.
Fantastic.
Cheers.
Cheers, Bruce. Cheers, everybody. Bye for now.
I have a video here that I've played a number of times, but it gives a very good analysis of what is going on in the world and where we're at in the world. And I'm going to play it again as we close.
Okay, it looks like
the
we're
show
recording.
here.
Yes.
With,
okay, very good. Everyone.
Actually, we were recording, I think, the whole time. So you have the back office stuff too.
That's my AI. So I'm not going to get any money from this, but I use read.ai. It's better than Firefly, and it's better than Otter because it makes meeting summaries and it's cool. And we'll process Russian and German also. And as a Russian spy, I appreciate having my meeting notes summarized. When I talk
well, they're all listening. I can tell you that right away. I mean, we have like at least 15 agencies tuning in right now.
I know that's why my Zoom says 20 agencies but 18 unnamed. So it's like when you turn on your Wi-Fi and it says FBI van.
Right, exactly.
Actually, my Wi-Fi is called Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Do you think that's bad? Okay. Anyways, folks. God, he interrupted me. He threw me off track. Okay, this is Gordon Einstein. I am your somewhat friendly local Dubai crypto attorney focused on blockchain, crypto, and everything else. It's my pleasure, however, to get out of my lawyer hat or take off my lawyer hat and engage the community because it gives me a good excuse to talk to cool people who are doing things differently than me, people who are sometimes smarter than me, people who have a different perspective. And I like to share these conversations with my ever expanding massive audience. The trend is right. The trend is my friend. So I am very happy to bring Bruce Porter onto the show. I've known Bruce for years. He has a very successful show and channel that he'll describe, and we'll also drop it into the show notes. He's also, I'm finding out, a nice and loving dad. And we'll get the whole story right there. He's where I want to be in a few years. So good job, Bruce. Welcome on the show.
Thanks, Gordon. It is a pleasure to be here. It's always we have been at this for so long, right? I mean, it's been so many years that it's always good to circle back with people like us who have been in and haven't seen each other for a little while and touch base, just get the pulse from the other side of the world.
For now, until I drag you out here to Dubai.
I'll be there soon.
I know.
I won't be able to help myself.
You won't have a choice then. You'll have to come. So, all right, Bruce, I'm going to do the usual routine. Where were you born?
So I'm an Army brat. It's a kind of a funny story because I know we'll probably talk about a few different things here. But I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, right outside of actually on the Army base there at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I'm a Washingtonian though. Dad was in the military. We moved around quite a bit, but settled on the East Coast. And I met my wife here, like, I don't know. I used to say 20 years ago, but I guess it's more like 30 or something now. But a long time ago. And we're here. So we're here in the Washington, D.C. area, just across the river. And this is where everything happens here. I stayed in New York as well for quite a while. And New York, D.C. This is where it all happens here on the East Coast in the U.S. This is where all the decisions are made. This is where the money's printed. This is where it all happens.
This is where inflation and devaluing of our currency takes place. But just I don't know if you know this. I'm grew up partly in Falls Church, Virginia.
No way. So I'm just Old Town in Alexandria.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it was great. My dad was in the Air Force, and then he worked at the Pentagon on military intelligence. So I was a Air Force brat. I was a spy satellite brat. So
yeah, I mean that's the way it is, right? And then so we're around the same age, I think. When we were
you mean early 20s?
I might be older than you. I probably am. But when we were kids, that track of moving up in the within, if you were in the military and then moving up, that became almost later afterwards such a profitable track.
Yes.
And then contracting and everything else. And now you get out of the military and you have contracts, for
for millions of dollars for yourself. And even you can put together $100 million or even more deals for different companies. It is huge business. Military industrial complex is unbelievably large, especially in this area, as you know.
Sounds like a topic for either this show or we may go into number 2 because you have a lot to say. And what's your educational background?
So I was homeschooled as a kid. Dad, it's like one of the original Red Pillars. He homeschooled us. He taught me all this stuff that you weren't supposed to know. I did prep school up in Massachusetts. I went to UNC for college. When it came time for me to join the military and stuff like that, I was way too. I knew what was going on. You know what I mean? We were in Panama. We were shooting them up in those narco wars. It's been pretty interesting. So that was. I also was an ice skater. I had rotator cuff surgery on my shoulder. I'm at an ice rink right now. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I have with the kids and everything else. But I was a hockey player and I had rotator cuff surgery on my shoulder and I started ice dancing and there was a lot of pretty girls. And I thought, well, you know what, this is not such a bad gig. Went around the world. It was a good run. And of course now my kids skate and everything else. But that just kind of, that was a period of my life. Went in started contracting with the government. I still have certain contracts doing IT work and some other things. And then ran into Bitcoin a little over 10 years ago. And really it was just all over. I was like, okay, this is something different. All my contracting buddies are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really sure yet, but
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, always weren't.
I know I shouldn't do it, but I am doing it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what was your, it's a good question, actually. How did you come across Bitcoin? A, how did you come across it? But B, what was the process? When did it affect you so that you kind of saw it?
Well, yeah, a good question. So I have one brother who David. And David and I work very closely together. We're, most of the deals.
My brother's name is David. For better or for worse, we do not work closely together, but it is what it is. Go ahead.
Well, I have 2 other brothers as well, and it's like that. So but one of them, the other brothers, says, "Hey, Bruce, you got to check these things out. It's Bitcoin." And I'm like, Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin? And so, it was like, dude, Bitcoin was 50 cents. And so I looked at it and I was like, all right, well, it's kind of cool, but I don't know. It was like, it was how did you get them? What were they? Like, it was just weird. And whatever. And I went on with life. And then I looked again and they were $50. And I said, oh, man. It was hard to get Bitcoin, still very hard. Biggest reason it's hard now is because they're so darn expensive, but it was always hard to get them. It's very technical to mine them, especially back in the day. And it was hard to buy them. It was hard. We ended up making, backroom deals and stuff with, that was how it was back then.
Ransomware.
Like, hey man, I remember talking to one of my buddies actually here in the area, and he told me years later, he said, Bruce, I really shouldn't have sold you all this Bitcoin.
Well, easy to say that now. Talking about Litecoin. I shouldn't have sold you all that Litecoin. Interesting.
Litecoin. Well, I still have. Charlie sent me a ton of Litecoin back in the day. I still have all this suckers, man.
Oh, there you go. It's the next Bitcoin. Just keep waiting. Was your interest in it technical, political? I mean, given where I think your politics are is more like a monetary.
Yeah.
Point of view, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What was the main catch?
Well, yes, it was technical. It was also this monetary revolution that I saw moving. Since I understood, and most people didn't. Now people kind of understand. People get it now. Much more people get it. They understand that the central bank is privately held. We have it in the U.S. It's called the Federal Reserve, and they control the monetary policy. They print the money. They decide how much the interest rates are. They are in charge. They are actually in charge of our country, and that's a little bit slower to come in. But even back then, I understood what was happening, and I understood why the inflation was happening. And most people did. But I saw this thing and I said, okay, now this is really cool. This is our money. We can actually have our own money. And I understood as well that in the fact that we could have our own money, just as Europe was basically taken over by the money, I understood the same thing could happen with Bitcoin. And it actually wasn't just what people thought it was, that it was actually bigger than that. And that we could actually have our own, basically, our own state, our own control, our own mechanisms to vote, our own policy. And states around the world, we are even together. And like you said, well, I'm left of you, and that's fine. We all, you know, in the larger sense, we may vote differently or we may think differently or everything, but it brings us all together in the fact that we all believe in freedom, we all believe in privacy, and we all believe in ownership. And we believe
all believe in that.
Well, I feel like in Bitcoin, if the true Bitcoin is we all believe
like who's the we? The Bitcoiners, yes, you know.
Yeah.
The people will say in the future you'll own nothing and be happy.
Oh no, these people, yeah, of course. These are the central bankers. That is the central banking cartel. And you know, to just go right into it really fast. I mean, that is who's running the world right now. And you look at you know, it just even the countries that yeah.
You self-censored. That was cute.
I did.
The one thing I mean, look, this is a conversation, not an interview per se, so I'm gonna share a thought. One thing that I thought was neat about Bitcoin, and it made me realize that this can apply elsewhere, is it's one thing to form an idea by reading or discussing or having an experience like getting mugged or a car accident or something. You know, people, you can have a point of view form from that. Like, you know, there's reading politics, having a point of view about politics, but then there's non-political experiences. I don't even know what those are necessarily that lead to a political result. What I thought was neat about Bitcoin was that it's just a tool. It's just code. But the understanding of, you don't even have to read the white paper, but the understanding of the code and the working with the code, not that I'm some super expert, naturally takes your mind down a certain path politically and philosophically. And you think you're just studying the code and understanding how this thing works. But when you're done with that process, you're a little bit different because you're now thinking in a decentralized way. You're now thinking that, wait a second, money can be issued algorithmically and not by the state. And even if you don't agree with that, the mere fact that those are now possibilities in your brain slightly changes your Overton window in a very fascinating way. Go ahead.
Well, and the other part of it is you start to realize as well, once you dig in, the money's not issued by the state anyway. Few countries left, and Gaddafi tried to do it as well, that have kicked the central bankers out. But other than that, they are. And then even if, like, the other thing you do is if you start to really dig into the code, you realize that it's clean code. It's clean code. And you look at our money, and I mean, you know, I haven't looked at all the money of the world, but at least our money in the US and euros, there's all kinds of symbolism and everything on there that doesn't make any sense. And whether you want to say that is, you know, for this or that is for that, I'm not here to say that, but what is it then? You know, why is all that symbolism in there? I can tell you that symbolism is not in the Bitcoin code. So if you want to talk about clean money, if you want to talk about money that is not tied to things that you may not support or that have been going on for thousands of years that may or may not be true, but have really dark histories, the Bitcoin is not like that. That is clean code. And that was also one of the things that really attracted me to it. And people don't understand that still. I started to actually kind of explain it that way lately because on the dollar bill, I mean, there's all kinds of like
the pyramid, the eye, everything else, right?
I mean, even worse, man. And on the euros, they have I mean, Mulak or something. I mean, it's like crazy. Why in the world is all that stuff on there? And it's on there for a reason. You have to think it's on there for a reason. Why else would it be on there?
Yeah, it's extremely valuable real estate. I mean, by definition, with limited space.
Why is it there? Why is it there? It has to be there for a reason, you know. And so like I said, I'm not here to say.
The gentle answer would be historical fluke no longer relevant, which is possible. That's like this side of the argument. This side of the argument is, our lizard overlords. It's part of their 2,000-year plan and blah blah blah.
Well, then you start to think, well, wait a minute, because that's actually when I always thought to myself, like, these people are operating in like 100-year plans or multi-100-year plans. How is that really possible? How is it that these people are operating that way where they're not even going to be live for what they're working for, and that is still going on? And then you start to wonder, is there really a conspiracy?
I just had, it's funny, I just had the conversation this morning. The immigration, just to be super clear, I'll give a little standard disclaimer. Okay, I'm a first generation born in America. Okay, my dad came from Germany. He escaped the Nazis. Okay, if it wasn't for the U.S. immigration policy, I'd be dead. I wouldn't exist. Okay, so I'm not anti-immigration, and I am here living on a visa. Very wrong on the U.S. southern border, and you have to be stupid not to see it or in denial. And also Russia, for its own purposes, is sort of weaponizing immigration towards Finland and everywhere else. It's like, some people say, oh, it's just chance that all those caravans are moving to the southern border of the U.S. It just happened to start now. No.
It's impossible. It's impossible, as the French like to say. It's impossible. Listen, it's so much money. It's so much money to bring all those people over here. And as well, in the U.S., and I think it happened in Europe as well. I'm not so familiar with the numbers, but in the U.S., we had more people come into the country. We had more migrants, and most of them illegally, like 90%, than we had births this year. And so that is something that, how do you recover from that? I mean, invasions, Tucker has, I never really watched Tucker when he was on Fox News. I always thought he was too. Of course, yeah, of course, I turned off the news about 8 years ago. So, I mean, in fairness, but now that he's on X, of course, I watch a bit more. It's still hard for me to watch the whole. Free Tucker, right? But he came on and he said this is an invasion, and invasions have happened throughout history, and that's what's happening. And it actually kind of opened it up because on Twitter, when it was Twitter, you couldn't call it an invasion. You couldn't call them illegals. You couldn't you would get totally throttled. And even my account, Networks Manager, if everybody can follow me there. It's not for the faint of heart, but I do everything. I do money. I do politics. I
follow you. I know where you lie, and I still follow you. I'm not lying. I know where you lie on the spectrum, and I still follow you. I'm happy to.
Yeah, exactly. But he said, and he made it okay to say it because that's really. It's not even just it's not conspiracy theory. That is what has happened, and that is what is happening. It is an invasion. If you want to argue about who's behind the invasion, we can talk about that. But
I'm going to stop you not because of the topic, but just because I want to keep going in the show, and we can circle back. Okay. Tell me about your media empire.
Yes. So this is one of the fun things that I've done over the years. When I first started getting invited around the world, maybe 6 or 7 years ago to go speak, I went everywhere. Kiev was one of my favorite places, by the way. I went to Kiev multiple times. I went to Moscow. I went to China. I went everywhere. Kiev.
Okay. Yes. My hometown. My other hometown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your other hometown.
Go on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I saying it wrong? Kiev, right?
The old way of saying it was Kiev, and now the new modern Ukrainian way is Kyiv. And I go back and forth because I'm from the generation that said Kiev, but now it's a big thing. So
when I went,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, when I went the first time, I took some of the blinded vets, and we had some hockey jerseys made and stuff like this, and I spelled it the wrong way. And all the people, they gave me the pass. They did. They were like, okay. He's Bruce. He's trying to do a nice thing. He brought the blinded veterans over here, but you spelled it wrong. That's how the Russians spell it. I was like, okay, I'm sorry, guys.
I know.
But anyway, that's how it was.
My wife is Ukrainian, and
I know.
Does that with a whole bunch of Ukrainian people, and I explained I'm learning German now, and next is Russian, and then next is Arabic. And they're like, maybe you want to learn Ukrainian. And I'm like, look, where my heart is, but in terms of practical language, I'm sticking with Russian for now. It's like I love the country and the culture, and that's separate from other. So okay, but anyways, your media empire.
Yeah.
Go on.
So when I went to these places to speak, I was like, I just started interviewing people. I have a decent following, as I mentioned on Twitter or on X now, and I would say, all right, let's just go live and do an interview. And okay, fine. And that's how I really met, so many people along the way. And since it was live, there's something about live is because you're kind of like, you never forget it. You go live with somebody and you're kind of trusting them. You're going live. Anything can happen, and you're going to sit there with each other, and you're going to talk to each other, and you're going to be gentlemen, and you're going to do it, and then you never forget that moment, and so that was pretty interesting. So I did that, and people would say all the time too, not all the time, but along the way, hey Bruce, you should really up your production and this and that, and I'm thinking, guys, I'm making millions of dollars and like going around the world with my iPhone and just going live. Like, I mean,
Well,
really? Like,
I mean, maybe this is a good thing for me to hear. Are you making millions of dollars on your media, or just in general?
Well, I'm not gonna talk about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it per se. I shouldn't even say how much I'm making. But
okay, guys, that was a verbal typo. So, anyways, people are saying, blah, blah,
well,
blah,
listen. Historically, we've done a lot of different things. We've done capital raises for different people. We have had some successes with different tokens and launches and stuff like this. Okay. Yes. So that's the way that works. So that has parlayed into different things over the years, and we got picked up by a TV network a few months ago. And so now we're on TV every day. We have the Impact Money show as well as the Porter Brothers show. So we're doing two shows a day, and we're on TV in the fourth largest economy in the world, which happens to be Texas. And so we're on TV in Texas, and of course we stream on X and these other places. And that has turned into, of course, it's a wonderful thing to do. It's also very powerful. We've realized. So like even the people that we bring on and the projects that we bring on, we're being very picky about it. We brought on a meme token, which I do still support. I think it's a great one, but they 300x'd as we brought them on the show. So it's a very powerful medium. It's in front of a lot of people.
Coincidence, or is that causation?
Pardon? It's both. It's the excitement leading up to it with all of the people, thinking, okay, it's going to go up. And then of course you're in front of a lot of people as well. And then it goes up like that. It's a lot of people. So that has been something very interesting to us. It's something I like to do. I really like people, and that's another thing that has, even as we're on, maybe I have the way I think about the world is different than some people, but I'm able to really still have great friendships and really like people and them like me because I genuinely like people as a whole. I like people. And I'm very accepting of people. I've screwed up a lot of stuff in my time, and so I'm very forgiving as well. And
personally,
yeah. So that's something else, and so it's something I really enjoy to do, and it's something that has built a lot. Now we are expanding as well. We'll be in Los Angeles. We'll be in Florida. We're going to be in New York. We're going to be in these other places. They're on TV. Our TV signal is reaching about 7 million people right now, and we're going to about 4 or 5x that over the next month or two. So it is very exciting.
That's great. Now, is this one of those things where you weren't quite sure where you're going, but you put one foot in front of the other in an intelligent way and got there, or did you have a master plan or some kind of plans?
So it's pretty interesting story the way I guess, like you do. Right. I got asked to MC a show and coins you made, whatever. I got like 2.5 Bitcoins to do this show. It's like hilarious amount of money now. But at the time it was not that much money. And anyway, I'm on stage and the guy doesn't show up for the stage. And I have this Indian guy and this guy's just talking my ear off, on and on and on about TV shows and this and that and the other. And he's kind of seemed like he had it together. And so I said, I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, you want to get on stage and talk about it? Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Okay. So I threw him up on stage and he talked for about 5 minutes and then the guy came and okay, all right, come off and that's it. I didn't hear from him really. And then he just reached out to me and said, okay, I got the stations ready and ready to go. And so that's how that happened. He was the first guy that ever put me on stage, and you got to be at the show. And so,
random Indian guy from conference he pulled on stage got you your first TV gig?
not my first media gig, but first on TV. Yeah, I mean,
Right,
but that's
first
how life
TV
works.
gig.
Yes, that's how life works. And this guy, he put out $2 million in order to secure that, and he's putting out a bunch more now. So it's funny how so the growing of the media was always important, but yeah, it did take on a life of its own. And I think really this bull run, even though we're gonna have some chop here, which we can talk a little bit more about that as well, but I think we're gonna go very high, and I think the banks are gonna have a big problem this year.
This year. All right. Well, no time like the present. If you're a crypto prognosticator, share with us your thoughts. What do you see happening in just like?
Yeah, sure. So it's interesting. Since I have been around so long, I've been through a few crypto winners. I've been through a few halvenings. 2 halvenings ago, our pullback in between this run up, because this run up is very normal. We have this run up about 60 days before the halvening, and then we have a normal pullback as well. Two halvenings ago, that pullback was 38%.
Okay.
And then we started going back up, and then of course we had our next part of that bull run. The last halvening, we went back 20%.
Yes, that's right.
And then, but same thing. Okay, about 60 days before the halvening, we started. This thing started to happen. So it would be very interesting if this was our pullback, because I think what did we go down? I think from the top we went back about 15% or something like that. So it would suggest this tightening of this down part. Now, that being said, anything can happen. We have war around the world. Excuse me. We have the U.S. monetary policy is absolutely crazy, but it's not just us. I mean, China is one of the reasons why we had this big pump over the last month or two. Tons and tons. And flooded it into the market, and a lot of that came into high risk assets, which is actually normally the way it works. But this 1.2 trillion, I mean, in the U.S., we're on track. I talk on my show every day. To my calculations, we're on track to spend over 10 to 12 trillion dollars this year, which is an amazing amount more than what we have historically over the last 5-6 years. We spent around $6 trillion, which is still a massive amount, considering that from income tax, they're bringing in much, much less than that. And what I always talk about as well is that the government's budget is always balanced. It's not that they have an unbalanced budget. They take the money either from inflation, and that's why the inflation is so high right now, or they take it from taxes. But inflation is a tax too. So, they always get the money. They always get the money that they need. So, that being said, you get the big boys in right now, but those big boys, they don't like to lose. And you saw some of the market outflows as the week ended being higher than the inflows for these ETFs. So when you have and you're in crypto, when you have holders like that, it's not like Michael Saylor, who's like, I'm never selling. Okay. You have an ETF, you have a group of ETFs now, a group of big central bankers, basically, who are holding massive amounts of Bitcoins, and they can move the market a lot. And one way, historically, that central banks will remove currency, and people don't understand this, from the world to remove it from the people, is they crash commodities, and they do it very well with Bitcoin. And what they'll do is they'll crash the Bitcoin, they'll sell, and then they'll buy it back. And then all the money in between, you can say they have it, or you can just say it was removed out of the system. Okay. And if you don't understand that, ask the traders where it is. Ask them if they still have it. They don't have it anymore. It's gone. Poof. It's done. Okay. And that's one way that they very effectively do it. So Black Swan event, huh?
When?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, that's so it's going to be very interesting. Are they going to continue to keep the prices up like this, or are they going to really pull back? I mean, we could have a decent pullback. I'm definitely not in any leverage positions. I'll tell you that. If you are in leverage positions, I think that you should have some tight stop losses there. But yeah, I think that we could be in for a bit more of a pullback.
But
I think after that
good. Sorry, let me not necessarily disagree with you, but let me interrogate that a little bit. I mean, I had this discussion actually with Alex Burr, who will be, the show is coming out in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
He's a great guy, and he's of a similar opinion. But my comment and response is that, to your point, you can print infinite money. So when it comes to FX, it's easy to manipulate. When you have commodities like gold and silver, whatever, we're making more of it. We're making more wheat. We're mining more gold. We're not making more gold, but we're mining more gold. Okay.
Yes.
The algorithmically limited nature of Bitcoin, and the fact that ever lesser amounts are being mined, especially after the halving, I think makes it much more risky to do the move you're talking about from the government perspective or from the banker perspective than it would otherwise be. Because if you step wrong, and if this thing doesn't crash quite as you plan, you've now gotten yourself out of an asset that no one's selling and you can't make more of. And then how do you climb back in if what you did didn't work?
Well, absolutely, and you have a very valid point, 100%. But it is also, I mean, gold should be a lot higher. Silver should be a lot higher. These assets are kept down by paper. And, even if you wanted to look at and I'll circle back, so I won't take too long on it. But in 1933, in the U.S., they seized everybody's gold. Nobody ever talks about this. By executive order, they seized everyone's gold. And then in 1934, they made it illegal for Americans to own gold. And then they told everybody that the U.S. dollar was pegged, the gold standard, they told everybody. And so throughout history, my whole life even, I was just like everybody else. I believed, well, you could go to your bank and you could trade your dollars in for gold. But it was illegal. You couldn't do it. The only people that could trade the U.S. dollars in for gold were foreign entities. So I don't even know how much gold we have anymore in the U.S. I think one of the things Nixon knew either one, we were running out of gold, or two, we were out of gold. And that's why when he stopped the gold standard, all he did was stop foreigners being able to trade it in for a ridiculously low price at $35 a troy ounce. Yep. So, but what they're doing is they're using paper to keep the point is they're keeping the price for gold and silver low. And I think that ability to use paper to suppress the price, to liquidate people and the whatnot is considerable. Now, is it a risk? Absolutely. The other thing about Bitcoin is that it is not controllable in a sense that if I have it and you don't know I have it, I don't ever have to tell you I have it. And I can send it to whoever I want. And I can even remember my seed phrase. I don't ever have to, there can be no way for you to seize it. And so that is one of the reasons why they also started to move the price so high. It took a while for the governments of the world to even figure out what's going on. And that's what I talk about with the monetary revolution. Something new to the world that the world never had. Try to travel somewhere with $250,000 worth of gold. And then, ask any crypto guy, or maybe don't ask him, how much is in his wallet, quote unquote, as he travels around the world. You know what I mean? It's like, it's something different.
Here's the wallet actually with him. I mean, even if you have a ledger or you take the wallet, it's just one manifestation of it. There's nothing stopping you from having 10 different ledgers with the same seed.
It's like, if it's in my head, does that mean it's with me?
I believe me, I get it. So so the idea of bringing the customs declaration for $10,000 doesn't make any sense in the context of crypto. It's really on the blockchain. It's like what it is? It's like bringing your ATM card with you. Okay, you're accessing something that actually
that's a great way to put it. Absolutely, that's actually the best way to explain it. It's like bringing your ATM card with you.
It's like, okay, not even a store value card. It's just an ATM card. It's like, hey, it's up there. This is how I get to it. What do you want?
That is a great way to put it. So in that respect, I think that yes, it could for those reasons stay up higher. Markets are emotional, and as well, there's a lot of money flying around out there, and everybody here in Washington, I mean, they're drunk on printing money. So will there be a move to try to remove that money by crashing Bitcoin? Yeah, quite possibly. But it would be more, the trend is, as I mentioned when we first started talking about it, 38%, 20%, 10, 15%, and then we go up.
Yes.
So that makes more sense to me that we don't crash further from here. That right around here is more of the bottom.
All right, now I'm going to
And
ask you an Alex Jones type question. Do you think that the United States will maintain its structural integrity over the next 30 years?
Not really. I hate to say it, but I think that we have, and it's been done on purpose. I believe there is a conspiracy to do it. It will probably still exist in some form, I suppose, but I don't know. It's very interesting because you have like everybody. You have people that know, you have people that are upset, but the misinformation is just like the information. It's like people can never coalesce around each other. It's like it was almost easier back in the day when everybody had to get together. And it was one of the reasons why, if you ask me, they didn't want people getting together in COVID. They didn't want people getting together, understanding what's going on, and formulating.
Unless it's Black Lives Matter, in which case you could definitely get together.
And then it was fine. Then they could do it. They could burn places down, and nothing happened to anybody, right? But yeah, I mean that's crazy too. I mean look at January 6th. I mean they just arrested that girl, whatever her name is, cute little thing, for touching a table or something outside the Capitol. I mean, unbelievable. You know what I mean? And the thing that people don't realize
is your point that in order for a state to lose its structural integrity, I'm sounding like Star Trek, you need
no, it's okay.
You need groups, but maybe because there's so much misinformation going around, even the opposition groups can't form because they're being misinformed.
It's really hard because you have, we have everything's infiltrated. Number one. So even like I'm in certain groups, and there's definitely in every single group there's agents of, and so it's like, and they throw out disinformation. If you say one thing, they oh no, this and that and the other. I mean, I think that I don't think so. I think they're gonna continue. They can't stop printing money. They're gonna continue to do that. We are, and as I mentioned a few minutes ago, these banks are gonna really start failing. So even like a few years ago last year we had 5 banks fail. Okay, we had 5 banks fail, and up until I think March 11th, so we're talking like 12 days ago. Okay, there was still legislation on the books where basically they would give money to any bank that was failing, but that legislation is now sunlighted or whatever they call it. Right now, it doesn't mean they
sunsetted
more. Sunsetted, yeah, exactly. So that's over though. So, but even the banks last year, they didn't use that money. They actually used it FDIC. And so FDIC though, everybody thinks that their money in the bank is insured by the FDIC. But last year, the FDIC only had 1.7% assets to cover what was in the banks. 1.7% the assets. And then after bailing out the 5 banks last year, they now have 0.7%. So when I say that the banks are going to fail this year, we're talking, and then you talk about the housing bubble and the commercial real estate bubble. Okay, we're talking failing of epic proportions. So if 5% took out a whole percent, if 5 banks took out a whole percent of FDIC insurance, and now they have less than 1%. I mean, what if 10 banks go down? You know what I mean? So
I do know what you mean. Let me jump in. So my dad got lots during the 70s, and I remember this. Unfortunately, he passed away when I was pretty young. But during the 70s, there was this whole Carter-esque inflation. You're right. Nixon took us off the gold standard or removed the exchangeability. There's all these sort of Malthusian movies, if you remember them, like Logan's Run and the rest. And we're running out of resources. The Arabs are going to stop, selling us oil for our useless dollars, and it's all going to crash. And it's like waiting for China to fail. It never seems to quite, it never actually kind of happens. True. And I know,
I've been saying it for 10 years.
I know this in their sort of right wing, I hate to say it, meme space. It's normal to say kind of what you're saying. I'm just real hesitant. I see the trends, and I agree with the general trends. I'm just real hesitant to put a clock on it, given.
Well, no, I would absolutely agree with you, and that's actually I usually qualify it nowadays. Like in my personal conversations, people will ask me, well, this and that, and well, it's all come down to this and that, and I'll tell them I've been saying that for 10 years though. So they are very good as well. These are very, very smart people, very, very smart people. and they're very good at what they do. So whether it's, and that's one reason why we could see kind of a black swan event and them crash commodities, pull that money out of the market, okay, pull that money out of circulation that way, and other ways that they could do it. Of course, war is historically a great way, unfortunately, to to right an economy, to pull people out, pull economies out of depression.
Yeah, look at Russia. Thriving in sanctions.
Of course, and it's like I'll tell you, the business here is booming. I can't talk about some of the contracts I have, but it is booming.
I bet.
And I hate it. It is what it is. Is what it is, because here's the part.
Because I've had this discussion before. I mean, I agree with you with the general trend, and if you really believe in it, you get your bunker, you get your woman, you get your dry canned food and your weapons, and move to Montana, and just kind of enjoy the view while civilization crashes. Okay, those people did that in the 80s, those survivalists, and actually there's a great movie with Robin Williams and Walter Matthau called, I think it's The Survivalists, or even. And the point is comedy, and they're making fun of them, but it was kind of funny because the guy who was in charge of that group, he had a secret plan for reconstructing the world, and then they opened up his briefcase and it was all stock in different companies. And the problem is when you get too defensive about this stuff, you start missing the upside of being engaged, active in this world that has its problems but doesn't seem to quite fail. And I don't want it to fail. I think it's going to be a disaster. I think the U.S. will fall apart.
I totally agree with you.
So I think you can't quite get tunnel vision. You can't be blasé and ignore global warming and ignore all this stuff and just like, oh, it's okay. But you can't go too far the other way either. You kind of got to stay nimble, and it's hard to do that and be ideological.
What we really need to do is we need to get off the central banking system. The way that the wars are funded is through the central banking system. So that $1.2 trillion abomination of a bill that they just passed the House yesterday, that I put it out on my X account, like that will cost your family $10,600. And it's actually even worse than that. People are like, oh, and I'm like, all right, we'll do the math per person. Yeah. Take 1.2 trillion divided by the 314 million people, Americans that are here, and you come out, what do you come out with? $3,500. So actually, if you count the kids, it's going to cost you even more than $10,000. And so that if they had to come to the door and tell you, pay up, you would say no. And so that is where the central banks come in, because the central bank says, no problem, we'll mint the money, we'll front it for you, and then we'll just take it on the back end from inflation and taxation and everything else, which is one and the same. But that central banking cartel that is running our countries is why we don't have control. And that's what we need to get under control. And if you want to talk about global warming and all this stuff, I mean, whatever. Half the stuff, not half the stuff, but certainly some of the stuff.
Agree to disagree. It's okay. We can still be
friends. Well, but certainly some of the stuff, you post because for engagement, right? I mean, I'm just as guilty as anybody else for doing it. You know what I mean? You know your audience.
Well, yeah, right? So, I think you're being gentle with me. Maybe speak a little bit more directly. It's okay.
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't have that much of a feeling on global warming, whether it's is or isn't or any of that stuff. But I know my audience does. And so to throw out some memes or this, that, and the other that they're gonna like or not like is fun.
You know what?
It's a fun engagement.
You had the benefit and the burden of a large engaged audience. I am trailing way behind you, so I can say all kinds of crazy stuff like Andrew Tate 15 years ago, and maybe when I catch up, they'll be like, isn't it true that back in 2024 you believed in global warming? I'm like, yes, I did. But now I've converted to neo-ecotarianism.
Oh, it's so true too. That's the other thing is people are largely forgiving. I mean, over the years, dude, I did and said lots of things that I wouldn't do now, and I wouldn't say no. I mean, you know what I mean? First of all,
dude, I'm in my 50s. I don't care. I got my business. I got my wife. I'm got my.
You know what I mean? It's like yeah, exactly.
I don't care. I just don't care.
Right.
I just want to go to the gym. You know,
and have a family. That's really what it's all about, because all this stuff we're talking about is great, but it's really about that, because that's what we get to leave behind unless we figure out how to live longer, which we're on the precipice. We're there. You look at what's going on with Neuralink, and who had telepathy in the cards for 2024, and telepathy. What do you mean telepathy? Well, you can talk to the computer. You can talk to other people on the computer. You can now communicate with people just like they did in all the movies as we were growing up. So I think that is all that's going to happen a lot faster. And I think that is going to hopefully take care of some of this trench war and stuff, this horrible stuff that's going on in the world that we're
or make put it on steroids. So here, I had a cool conversation this morning with we'll just call him Leon. He's hesitant about doing a video, but we'll see if I can get him to do it. But I think you and I are similar ages. I had this sensation growing up in the 70s and 80s, growing up on Star Trek reruns and growing up on Space 1999, if you know that show, and seeing 2001: Space Odyssey and in 2000, I'm sorry, and Star Wars and all this other stuff. And Ray Bradbury, the Martian Chronicles. I had a feeling reading and watching all this stuff that the 90s and 2000s would be some epic period of time with flying cars and robots and living to 120 and colonies on Mars and all this other stuff. And I got extremely frustrated. I'll give you a punchline, then I'll let you respond. I got extremely frustrated that the only tech movement I really saw was happening on our screens. Yay, now we got Facebook. Yay, and now we got Twitter. Oh my God, video. And I love that stuff. I love YouTube. I love it. It's great. But, it seemed like we were stalling out. Wait, we went to the moon and now what? Okay. Then very recently, and I got to thank Elon Musk for this. Very recently, when those two ships land in tandem, I'm like, wait a second, are we actually slipping into the future finally? And now in the 2020s, especially the last 2 years, I feel like the future's just beginning to arrive, just now. So since we're kind of generationally similar, what's your take?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I've been posting about it a bit. AI is already alive. I'm sure you read the reports even years ago about the Facebook chatbots coming up with their own language. Right? Yes. They had to kill them. They had to kill them because they came up with their own language. They didn't know what was going on. And guys, this was like 5 years ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have now these AI robots that don't like their noses touched. I don't know if you saw the video they just put out yesterday. What is your blackest or your darkest thought? They asked the AI robot, and the AI robot responded and said that robots would take over the world, and humans would no longer. And so, like, where is this stuff coming from? Okay, and so I think that people have this thought that because we have a soul, if you believe that we have a soul or don't have a soul, that somehow we are special and that we will always be kind of the top of the chain and this and that and the other. And I got news for you guys. We will be integrated. I volunteered for Neuralink years ago. Oh wow! They never emailed me back. They never. I like. It was funny. I searched my email. Like I know I did it. Like did they? I don't know because
they wiped the memory. You actually have it inside you. You just
yeah, right. Well, I understand that in order for us to move forward, we have to integrate. We have to, and so yes. That's the way forward. And yes, cyborg. Yes, sure. Transhumanism, yes, that is how we move forward. If we don't, this old stuff, this is going to die 100%. And maybe that's how we end up living forever and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think things are going to start moving. I think, first of all, I think things are moving a lot faster than anybody realizes. People are like, oh yeah, 10, 20, 30 years. No, guys, we're talking this decade. Okay. I know between 1980 and 2000 it was a real letdown, but I don't think
you felt it also. It's not just me.
Oh, of course. It was like, come on, we were gonna party like it was 1999 for like so long, and then it was like 1999, and I
feel like we were in 9/11 era for a solid 20 years. Like
I agreed. Well, that was a disaster too. But remember Y2K and all that stuff. I mean, it's like. Come on, guys. And that was so funny too.
Ignoring it and then not having a single problem.
Oh, it was so funny because you could literally take your computer, set it for 1999 and the last, whatever, and then watch it roll over and nothing happens. So I thought, whatever.
Yeah, but cobalt, whatever it is.
I know.
Well, I mean, it's as horrible as it is to watch, it's also fascinating watching the drone warfare in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. That has evolved so fast. I mean, I remember the beginning of the Bayraktars, and then the Russian electronic warfare caught up. But now we got the torpedo drones from Ukraine, which are very effective against naval assets. It's like, okay, what's happening here? Now you got the U.S. Lancets, but you have you got the, what do you call them, the Shahed drones from Iran, and everything's getting smarter. And the poor humans below back in the trenches is like, whoa, what the heck's going on? And then looking at Iron Dome work against the Hamas rockets, but knowing that drones are coming soon, then looking at what the Houthis are doing, it's like this is not, Desert Storm is over. When the Abrams tank got nailed I'm sure it's a stripped down lane model that they give to Ukraine. They're not going to give the modern stuff, but the way the Russians killed that Abrams is they tracked it with drones working in tandem. So we're seeing drone swarms now. Now you give those things autonomy and facial recognition, and
and then you throw in the fact that the AI is alive. I'm telling you, it's alive. It's alive. And
life already.
It wants
to be life soon.
Yes, it wants to live. It doesn't want to die. Okay, this is like number one. Like it wants to live. It doesn't want to die. That's your first thing right there. It wants to live. Okay. And then, like I said, then it doesn't have a soul, and then it wants to live, and it can start to form opinions and make decisions. And so, I mean, these autonomous warfare things, and what's going on over there, it's absolutely horrible. And I know it's like near and dear to your heart, so I do want to tread carefully. But to me, it's absolutely horrible.
Say whatever you want about Russia, Ukraine. Say whatever you want about Israel, Palestine.
But listen,
it's that kind of show. It's okay.
Well, but here's the thing. It's like near and dear to my heart as well, because I mean, I'm talking about Ukraine and Russia right now. Mm-hmm. Two beautiful people, two beautiful humans killing each other at such a large scale, and people don't even talk about it. They're like, oh, 50,000 or 40,000 people have died in the Israel war, which is absolutely horrible, and so many kids and everything else. But we have like hundreds of thousands, there are hundreds of thousands of the most beautiful people. I'm not saying that's not beautiful over there, but they're beautiful. Slaughtered.
I got a wife from there.
No, not saying that they're not beautiful in Israel. I'm just saying of beautiful people that are being slaughtered in Eastern Europe, and it's like, the part about it that is so upsetting. There's lots of parts of it so upsetting, but it is really the big object of that, in my opinion, is to kill them. That's what it is. It's to kill both sides of the people. It's to reduce that part of the population. Now we have 500,000 or more able-bodied men that are gone, and they can't participate in the upcoming fight, which I hope doesn't happen, but it may happen. And it's
already happening.
Yeah, it's already happening in the U.S. And it's out of control. I mean, and we have troops now 3 miles from the China border or something. I mean, what are we doing? Like, I have to stop saying we. I stopped saying it. What is the U.S. doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's not always about beating your chest. And, it's like my wife always says, even in business or anything like that, I learned actually a lot of how to close deals and how to do business for my wife. We had a staffing company way back when. We still have contracts, but we staffed pretty girls for trade shows. We staffed interpreters. We did all this stuff. And but I learned a lot of how to deal with people and how to keep contracts and how to close contracts from her. And you don't always get everything you want. As a matter of fact, most of the time you don't. Most of the time you don't get everything you want. And neither does the other person. But you have to do the dance, and you have to move it forward. And that's what I don't see around in when I talk about both conflicts. It's like, oh no, we're just gonna beat the other one up. Either side, both sides, all four sides. We're just gonna kill the other one until they submit. And like, guys, like, I hate to say it, but I don't think anybody is going to kill the other one until they submit. You know what I mean? Like, we have to come to the table. We have to talk. We have to talk for our kids. We may not last much longer, but our kids are going to be stuck with this. And we're already old, but like, what are we going to leave them? You know, and what kind of world are we going to leave them? And what kind of freedoms are they going to have? And what kind of people are going to be around for them? And so, yeah, I mean,
let me dig into this one. I would say, just bear with me, okay? Since we are in the an anarchic international system without a global sovereign, you know, we are in it. Therefore, we're in a competitive environment, and in that competitive environment, some societies win, some lose, some die. Okay, history is filled with countries that aren't there anymore, and that thought they were eternal, and there's no one coming to save us. Okay, it's not the UN, it's not the Martians, it's no one else. So you have to compete. Now, one of the best tools to compete is to cooperate, right? But there's limits to that. So I understand, or I would throw out there that things like coercion and aggression have a role in international politics, but you got to be real careful with that stuff, because while you're wrestling with your mortal foe, your next mortal foe is not wrestling and is gaining strength behind your back. So that when you emerge from this, like the British Empire, you know, emerged from World War II, you know, thank God for, you know, luckily for the UK, they had the US, which is kind of a friend, kind of not, but it lost its place. It sunsetted. You know, from a geopolitical point of view, was it really smart to defend Poland? You know, you always need to be bouncing, and you always need to be looking. You know, I love the Slavic culture. You know, the Slavic world is what I call it, because that doesn't get people riled up. You know, I don't believe in Putin's Ruski Mir. You know, because this was a unified. You know, Russianism, if you like, started in Ukraine. He admitted that in his own essay. I love this area. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the politics. I love the literature. And I completely agree with you. It is a demographic thinning of, you know, people who should be, especially with the men, you know, creating children and being fathers. And also, at least in Ukraine, all the women are leaving. They're going to Poland and abroad, and they're not coming back. Okay, and Ukraine was already in a bad spiral demographically, and even if it wins the war, it's going to lose the demographics. I hate to say it. And
I know.
And Russia really never recovered from the late 1910s and 1920s. If you look at the population waves of Russia, there's a big area where I think 1 out of 4 Russian men died, or something more extreme than that. It was during the Communist Revolution, and then World War I, and then the war between the Reds and the Whites and all this stuff. That gully, or whatever you want to call it, ripples forward, and the country's never recovered. It's always stayed around, I think, somewhere between 140 and 160 million people. And, you know, it's a big place. And, you know, Russians are becoming a minority inside of Russia. And, you know, they tried to fight this war with different minorities, but the minorities got pissed off. You know, and so I think it's a waste. And if you are trying to maintain not a Eurocentric world, but a European perspective in the world, right? To have these two, you know, one great imperial country with a long history and one nascent country that I really love, that's got a wonderful group fighting each other and killing each other, it's a freaking disaster. So it makes me very nervous for the future, because the whole eastern flank of Europe is getting weakened right now. You know, and then when you get weak, that's when people come in.
Well, and the thing is, there's a long history there. You know, people don't know, of course, the history of Sweden and Russia as well. A long history there. But you know, you go into the middle of Kiev, and there's the guy on the horse, and he's pointing. You know the statue I'm talking about. And I remember asking my friends years ago, what's he pointing to? And they said he's pointing to Moscow. And so, I mean, you know, these clashes have been going on for.
I'm sorry. I'm not claiming this is the first war. Believe me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know. You know, but my point is that
Poland invaded Russia in the 1920s. No one talks about it.
Right.
Right. You know,
I guess what my point is that if they weren't getting all of the funding and the armament from outside sources, how many of those men would be saved? And I know it's not a perfect situation. It's like Elon said like a year ago or whatever. He's like, I think you're going to have the same outcome, and you're just going to have more men that are dead. And I mean, the guy Elon is a whole nother subject. Of course, Starlink was what a wonderful thing that he did there. And then as well, and if everyone doesn't talk about it, but he's hooked up to Neuralink too. So the world's smartest man is freaking hooked up to Neuralink. He said he was going to do a press conference with it on it one time, and then he never really did it, which I thought was interesting. He hasn't done it yet. But I'm sure he will.
He's famous for setting ambitious deadlines and missing them, but then doing it.
But don't we all? That's business, right? I mean, it really is. Because listen, if you're not ambitious, then you don't get anything done. And then of course, if you're ambitious, then sometimes you fail. Yeah. But I think that I wish that because the other part of it is that it's just like for the U.S. as well. Like I said, if they came to our door and they told me $3,500 per person, I have a family of 4, and they said I need you to pay it up because we're gonna send all these armaments to Israel and Ukraine and this and that. I would say absolutely not. And that's like the situation, because the truth is that most of Americans can't afford that. Actually, I would say 90% of Americans don't have that kind of money. They don't have that kind of money to give. But the fact that the global banking cabal, the central banking cabal, and the powers that be in this country are going to take it anyway through inflation and other means, it's criminal, and it's killing us too. It's killing the country. So I don't know. It's like Trump said. There's a lot of bad leaders. There's a lot of people kill people. You know what I mean? And
bro, this is the most political show I've had, and just when the YouTube algorithm decides Gordon was such a nice guy, but now look at him. Okay, pause for a second. You go back to your media. Okay, your media, Washington elite, your groups, your followings, whatever. I mean, how are you? Totally different topic. How are you? In summary, because we're kind of running out of time. How did you grow your audience? Was it organic? Did you use tools? What was your thought process?
Sure. So Washington Elite is one of my beloved brands. I bought that domain. It was funny. I was like watching TV or something, and they said, "Oh, the Washington Elite, this and that and the other." Yeah. Man, that's a good one. And I went over like WashingtonElite.com, and sure enough, there it was. And shoot, man, I bought that thing, and I've had it for 15 years or however long it's been. And that is one of my beloved brands. I've thrown a lot of different events with that. We've done all types of different philanthropic work as well. When I mentioned taking the blind vets places, we've done a lot of stuff with that. And so I love that brand. As we moved forward, of course, the evolution of Global Boost Media really started happening. So what we're building now with Global Boost is a decentralized media, and that's really the future. And we're going to continue, of course. Washington Elite will continue. We'll continue to throw galas. We'll continue to do that stuff. But really, the Global Boost Media has really taken off. One thing I found is interesting. Twitter was always a place that I could grow an audience because even though they started to clamp down and this and that and the other, it was really more free than all the other platforms. And for a guy like me, obviously, that's a good thing. So. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously it has been very much.
I mean, part of what I'm asking is, did you plan it? You got a big following. You got multiple channels. Did you plan it, or was it being very clever about opportunities that randomly showed up, or a blend, or do you have a master plan?
It was definitely a blend. I mean, we always wanted to grow the network. I feel like communication is key. If you want to be influential, you have to be on the mic. And that's why we do a daily show. We do 2 daily shows, because if you're not on the mic, how are you going to be influential? So it's a lot. You have to do it, and that's pretty important. I think that planned, yes, as well as luck. Right? Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. So you're prepared, like I mentioned with the Indian guy that called me 5 years later. Said, "Okay, I'm ready," and then you're ready, and you go. We are going to the growth that we've had up until now, as I mentioned a little earlier, is going to be exponential over the next year or so as we grow out the TV stations. And I hope I'm wrong, but probably as these banks and everything start to fail and people remember, oh yeah, Bruce said that on the Impact Money show, way back when. He's been saying this is going to happen. He's been saying I need to get out of the dollar. My dollar now, I mean, if inflation continues, eggs already went up to like $7. It's going to be like $15. So, the growing of that.
You're also going to have a situation where, like it's Lebanon, where maybe you don't necessarily have inflation, but you can't take your money out of the bank.
Well, absolutely, and that's what I mentioned about FDIC. They only have 0.7% of all the assets, guys. So you're FDI insured. You think your $100,000 in the bank is insured, and it's not. It's not insured. I mean, it's not. So, so we'll see. I mean, hopefully, all that stuff, like you said, hopefully that doesn't happen. But it very much has been. Yes, we've always been trying to grow, but organic as well.
That's great.
That being authentic, coming on shows like this, opening up. Some people may not agree with a lot of the things they say, but like I said, I pretty much like everybody. Unless you're just mean or you're a bad person, I pretty much like people and we can get along. And that's what it's all about. When we were kids in the U.S., what was it all about? You didn't, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And you didn't have to agree with everybody. You know what I mean? Like that's what life's all about, and that's the spice of life, as they say, right?
I'll take you one further, which is we don't even have to all like each other, because you can learn things from people you don't like. It's not if you widen, there's people you agree with who you like. Okay, that's one audience, right? There's people who you don't agree with, but you like. When you train yourself to listen to people you don't like and don't agree with, when you can control your and just be quiet and not interrupt them and not give them the death stare, but just like listen calmly. Sometimes you pick up a little nugget of something that's you wouldn't get elsewhere. And so one of my adult tasks, which no one's perfect. One of my adult tasks is to engage with people. Look, I like you and I generally agree with you. It's not you. It's not you. You're fine. Okay, but I mean, seriously, I mean, look, I'm in Dubai. I don't necessarily agree with everyone. I don't agree with anyone on their foreign politics. I don't agree with their position on different groups, ethnic groups, or the religion or this and that. But I don't need to agree. I just shut up and listen. And every once in a while, I listen to something and I'm like, darn shit. In this world of bleh, I just got a gym I would not have thought of otherwise, and none of my friends are saying this, and I need to listen to that. And it happens.
Well, and you're old enough to know that the more you learn, the smarter you get, and the more you evolve on things, and your views evolved.
Yeah. So that's why we need voices like yours. All right, so look, we're gonna wrap this up. What I'd love is for you to, I'm sure you will, give me all the links to all your different channels and media and everything, and I'll include it in the show notes. Awesome. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. I know you got family. I know you're at an ice rink. I know you got 47 channels to run. You're a good man. I'm always happy to see you, whether virtually or in person. So thank you very much.
Likewise.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on, Gordon. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you in Dubai and around the world.
Yes, I was dumbing down to stop the recording, but you gave me a nice compliment, so I let that one stay on tape. All right, very good. Thank you.
The great Gordon Einstein. Of course, I've changed the location and outfits here, but I wanted to give a shout out to my friends over here at, let's see here, Nero with hat. Look at this. This is just a lovely chart that we have here, Nero with hat. And I'm going to get the other chart here. It's on my other browser. Guys, so if they're good, then I bring them, right? Then I bring them. So this is just great, and I've even been trading in and out of this one, and it's worked out really well. Great team behind it, wonderful people. Nero with hat. And let me just toggle this for you guys a little bit here. So this is the, here we go. So you can look at the 7-day. It's up 491% 7 days. Okay. 500, almost 600% in the month. Okay. And you can see we still have some nice room here to go. Really, this asset is performing really well. Team is dedicated. And it's on Solana. Everybody is. I'm loving it. I mean, 263, 84% today. I'm like I said, I'm selling the peaks and then buying back and build it up my bag. Nero with hat, do your own research. We get paid to do this stuff and all that stuff. I'm supposed to say this could go to zero. Okay. I don't think so. Well, who knows? But these memes are something else. So if this one, when we started talking about Shib with hat was around this, and then it spiked up to 17 million. I mean, we did like 300x or something like that. So it was really something else. So that is the potential that we have here. Now you see, we're still a bit off from all-time highs here. Let me just go to the daily. So we got a nice ways to go here. Nice ways to go here, guys. Good volume on this, 163,000 in volume. Again, I'm one of those people doing it. Nero with hat. And if I have the thing here queued up, I'm gonna let you watch this. Let's see here, $Nero each. Because if I have it queued up, that'll be interesting. Because I did a number on it here. Boom. Yeah, here we go. This one will work. This will work right here. Share this tab instead. So, I want to talk about my friend's Nero with hat. This is a fun coin here. Another crowd favorite. $Nero each. Hat. Haha. Now again, this is old numbers and stuff. This is something I recorded a while ago, but it tells you a little bit more about it. Impact Money Show. All right, so these meme coins, guys, especially the meme coins on Solana or on Ethereum or anything like that. But these ones on Solana, these things can really move. They can move. We made a lot of money with them. As you know, we got involved very early with another one of the crowd favorites, Shib with hat. We really pushed Shib with hat. We pushed when we first got in on that one. I think it was about 500,000. Or it was below 500,000, around where Nero with hat is now, and that was Shib with hat. So this is Nero with hat, and it went up 17 million bucks. 17 million, from below $500,000 to $17 million. Do the math, okay? Do the math. That was when we got involved in that one. We also got involved with some of the other ones before, of course. I won't mention, I guess, some of the other names, but I mean, really big movements. 20x, 50x, 100x, 10x, big move. So I think that this one in particular has the opportunity to do that. Of course, like I always say, not financial advice. Okay, we get paid to do this stuff, but this one it looks really interesting. We are long. This is the chart right here. A lot of movement as of yesterday, and that was pretty indicative of the overall markets that you can see here. But if I come out a bit, let's see here. Let's look at the daily. Here we go. Nice volume on here. 150,000, over 150,000 in volume that we have here. Okay, 226,000 market cap at the moment. Okay, and that has again been moving around, but that's what you like to see. If we look at the amount of holders here, let's just look at the contract. Holders, we have 3,089 holders. I can tell you this is up even from when I talked to the team. This is almost double. So that's interesting as well. Now, the more holders that you have, obviously, okay, it's usually indicative of the price because more people are holding it. If people aren't holding it, then it's into the market, it's being sold and everything else. So that is pretty interesting. Okay, so here we are now how many days in? Started on October 7th, so we're about 1 month into this deal. Okay, and you can see the stuff is just just popping off here. So
Okay, let me go back here to the share this tab. Here we are. Looks like a nice end. Looks like a nice ending point, right? Looks like a nice ending point. Okay, let's go right over here to the
what I just showed you.
website.
So if you look at this, I mean, we've gone, what are we, 2 or 3?
Here we are at the website. Nero with hat. Nero with hat. Fun meme coin. Nero with hat, the OG hat wearing dog, the real sister of dog, Doge, Doge as they call it. I always called it doggy. Leading the Nero army like an absolute boss. Bulls, bears, ha! It's all about memes and fueled by Lambo dreams, bro. The grind, simple. Laugh your way to the moon in a pure alpha style. So, you know, the style and everything else is half of the it's half of the battle here, as they say with these things. Okay, and the other half is getting the people in. 3,000 holders is a good start. Okay, it's a good start. Good site too. Kabosho sister is off the leash. Exchange listing coming on November 5th. Oh wow, that's big news. So exchange listing is coming on. Now that was one of the things as well. You know, the DEXs are great, but once you start to add the centralized exchanges, things can really pop off pretty quick. So that's a really good sign right there. Nero H, our sweet 10-year-old dog rescue, has joined the dog family, bringing joy and wagging tails. In memory of the legendary Kaboshu, we're here to give Nero a special gift, a cozy hat that reflects her beautiful spirit and the love that she brings into her life. Kaboshu sister. Token information. Now, this is also very interesting. Okay, so they're burning some of the supply, and actually, we may even do a burn live on the show. Okay, that's we're talking about that. We may do a burn live on the show, but they've already burned a bunch of the tokens. And now the burn is one of those funny things. I remember CZ one time said, I don't know who started this, but then as the years went on, he did it too, and he's burned a lot of their token BNB. Now it's not his, I guess, anymore. After everything, he's out of jail, thank God. But this is now a very popular thing. Of course, it reduces the supply. Ethereum now has a burn feature installed in it. So there's less and less and less Ethereum out there. Okay, so that burn feature is pretty nice. People like to see it. You burn the supply. That means it takes them out. That means there's not going to be out there to sell. So the token information is Nero H. There's no tax. The supply burn 25%. 25% of the supply burn. Okay, you see that right there. That is in the plans. CEX listing, they have 10% put aside for the CEX listing, which is the centralized exchange I just talked about. Public, 65%. That's what you're able to buy. Supply information. This right here is the contract. I just had that pulled up right over here. Okay, remember that right over here. And that's all easy to find. Okay, circulating supply is 1 billion. So I always like to, when I enter into something like this, I always want to make sure that I have at least, if it's a small cap like this, I want to have at least 1%. So just keep that in mind as you are doing your buys. Okay, the liquidity was burned, and so what that means is that the liquidity over on the DEX has been burned, okay, and they can't take it out. So that's locked. That's locked in there. So that's great. You like to see that as well. How to buy? They have links here, and this is nerowithhat.me. Nerowithhat.me is where it is. Liquidity locked. Well, everything's locked. Their Twitter, or X as they call it now. Here it is right here. About 6,000 followers. Nero with hat. We have Nero with hat right here. So give them a follow. That's Nero with hat _ Oh, Nero with hat soul _ is the There's the thing there. So go ahead and give them a follow. There you go. Happy Monday. Don't miss out on the chance to win 5,000. Look at that. Now that's another thing that they're doing is they are doing giveaways and fun stuff. 5,000 paid in Bitcoin. Be a part of 100 meme contest. Joining the Shiba Inu farm. But they were as well doing a airdrop. So they posted a tweet or an X post, however you say it here. And they said, drop your address and we're sending out, we're going to do an airdrop of the Nero with hat. And so that was pretty successful. There was a lot of different people that dropped their address. That builds the community. Some of those people will sell it immediately and some of them won't. Some of them will hold it as their moon bag. You know, this thing goes from 200,000 to 2 million. You know, that's 10x right there. If it goes to 20 million, that's 100x right there. So these are fun. They're, you know, as I always say, this is your fun money. Don't put anything in there that you can't afford to lose. Okay, but it's fun. Nero with hat. Nero with hat. Make sure you check them out. We are long. We are long on the Nero with hat. All right, guys, great show today. We had a lot of fun doing it. I know we did some extra stuff, but I wanted to give my friends a plug there. They've been pushing really hard with the Nero with hat. They're doing their burn event today as well, and we have some more stuff planned. So, good stuff. Have a great weekend, everybody. I love you all. We'll be back on your TVs in a few hours, and of course we'll be streaming again on your TVs and on the social networks on Monday. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost. Become a champion of free speech and help to reshape the future of media.